Hi, my name is Carrie Starnes, and I'm going to give a presentation on my classroom management plan that I have developed. The first thing is my philosophy. I believe all students can learn. I'm going to maintain a safe and positive classroom where I'm going to maintain control. My students will know what their expected behaviors are and what consequences that will be given. And I believe that positive reinforcement is better than negative enforcement. My classroom will be laid out to where I have the maximum learning potential of my students. My groups that my students will work in daily will be considered as support groups, to where students will learn to appreciate the different views of all students on topics and discussions. And this will also create close bond relationships with each other. The reason I have my desk and a horseshoe is I believe that all students can be able to focus on this teacher when they are more or less in the middle of the students, instead of just all this teacher up front at the board. The smart board and the teacher's computer will be the main focal point of the learning for the students. But as I am going to be a teacher, I don't like standing still, so I will be moving around my classroom. I will have a classroom library where students can check out books. The bulletin board will have any important information for the students. Learning center table to where groups can work with myself or another teacher in the classroom. My teacher's desk will be in the back of the classroom to where I can view students as they are working independently. And then I will have the classroom and student storage area location where the students' personal items can be stored, and the needed classroom storage for the materials that would be needed for that day or week will be located. To maintain a safe learning environment, I will be proactive. I will try to use the skills that will lead to me knowing before the issues arise and anticipate and prevent these issues. I'm going to use positive reinforcement, just as I said before, as the great jobs are. I'm going to hold weekly class meetings where students can give appreciation or compliments to about other students. Then also will be a time for, as a class, we can discuss issues that arose during the past week. I plan to have a stress-free learning environment where students can come into my classroom and know that they will have no negativity. I'm going to plan to use Marvin Marshall's discipline without stress. And this is going to be used to where the students will create a reflection form and fill it out to where they have to write what their misbehavior, their unacceptable behavior is, what they're going to do to change it, how are they going to change it, and they're going to make a commitment to try hard not to have this behavior again, and to think about if they feel like they're going to do a negative behavior, how can they quickly themselves take their own responsibility and change that negative behavior into a positive behavior. The bullying and aggressive behaviors will not be tolerated. I will use my school's policies on these two issues, and if it's severe enough, law enforcement will need to be involved. The 3C methods from David Johnson and Roger Johnson is that there will be cooperation between students, teachers, and parents to help develop fun activities that the students will be willing to participate in, model appropriate behaviors and attitudes, effective communication among everybody, and resolve conflicts and mutual agreements through peer mediation or a group conflict resolutions. And then lastly, to create common goals in my classroom, that when students create and share these goals, they will maintain a peaceful community. In my classroom, these are a few of the rules that I'm going to start the year off with. One is be in your assigned seat when the tardy bell rings. Respect others and their property. Bring all materials needed for class. Follow the direction the first time they are given, and stay in your seat until permission is granted. These are to help the class stay organized and minimize the disruptions through the class, and know that the students are ready to learn each day when they come into the classroom. And with any type of rules, you need to have consequences. And there's two types of consequences. You got your positive and your negative consequences. Positive behavior equals positive consequences. A full great job jar equals a whole class reward. And the class will decide what type of reward they want. Is it a pizza party, an ice cream party, or it could be something as simple as extra free time on Friday. And then there's the negative behavior equals negative consequences. Well, the first thing that students will do with negative is to fill out the behavioral reflection form. And if the behavior continues, then privileges will be taken away. Less free time, their computer time will be cut down. And if the behavior is very disruptive or very aggressive, then the school's disciplinary action will be implemented and taken into consideration for their consequences of their behavior. As with rules, my classroom will have procedures and expectations. The students will be expected to begin bell work when the tardy bell rings. When they first enter into my classroom, their homework will be placed into the correct folder. And when they're finished completing the classroom assignments, the students may read quietly or start their homework so they're not disrupting other students. And when they're working independently on work or as a test, the students will know that they are not supposed to be disrupting other students around them. And then number 5, when I complete and make my lesson plans for the day, I have a specific time frame that I want my lessons to take place. So I expect the work that students do to be done within this given time. If not, the students might lose points on it, or they might be given extra homework. And on negative and positive behaviors and how I'm going to respond to them, I'm going to be a model of positive attitude and character. I'm going to create a positive learning environment by using positive reinforcements such as the great job jar. And negative behaviors, I'm not going to tolerate. And hopefully before the negative behaviors get too out of control, I'm going to use nonverbal signals as eye contact towards students, or if the behaviors continue, I'm going to move closer to that student to let them know you need to take responsibility, look upon yourself, and make that change before something else happens. As with any teacher, we're going to have students with learning disabilities or physical disabilities or ESOL students. Well, when I have these students, I'm going to learn about each of the students as an individual and about their disability. I'm going to provide the necessary accommodations so that each of these students can succeed and have that equal education. And for some students, they might not be able to participate in activities. It might be a religious or cultural difference that they may not be able to participate. But just because they're not going to participate because of their background, I will make concessions for the students that they can be involved in what activity that we were doing. And I want parent involvement. I want the parents to let me know what works for their students, what doesn't work, what can I do, how can I help the parent, how can the parent help me. And the Council for Exceptional Students says that I have a responsibility to make sure I'm at the highest potential for learning for my students, and that I'm expected to do what I can to make an equal, fair, positive, caring classroom for my students. When I'm going to communicate with my parents, I'm going to have an open line of communication by use of emails, letters, phone calls, conferences. And the communication is both going to be positive and negative. When a student did an outstanding job on a test, or a negative behavior that the student needs corrected, I'm going to provide a weekly newsletter where my contact information will always be on those newsletters for the parents to have. And I want to build a trusting, caring relationship with each of the students' parents. The two behavioral models that I have used is Marvin Marshall's Disciplines Without Stress. And I'm basically have used a modified version of the Raise the Responsibility, where I'm going to have the students fill out a behavioral form and they're going to reflect on their actions. And then I'm going to stay positive, and I'm going to have students take ownership of their behavior, and that they're going to give the time for reflection. In the Richard Corin and Alan Medler's Discipline Without Dignity, I'm going to use the 7 principles. That it's my responsibility to be an influence. I'm going to give positive and negative feedback. I'm going to welcome it plus give it. I'm going to treat each student individually. I'm going to teach the values of the rules and explain why I have these rules in effect. I'm going to model dignity to my students. Now I'm going to expect my students to be responsible for their behaviors and choose the paths that best interest for them. And I'm going to teach each of my students how to show dignity to others. A healthy classroom is important when we establish that we can help students feel that they are respected and that their behaviors can be kept to a minimum. I know my management plan will change over time with experience and feedback, but I plan to stay consistent in my expectations and what my procedures. I'm going to stay firm in what I believe. I'm going to welcome feedback from students, teachers, parents, and other faculty. And the students are going to learn and take responsibility of their actions, because once they learn and take responsibility, they can know what type of behavior is expected. And my goal as a teacher is to see that each student master the material being taught and that each student will succeed. Thank you.